are listening to Talk on Radio Biafra London. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, Radio Biafrans all over the world. My name is Mazi Jonathan Chinedu from all province of Biafra land. This is Radio Biafra House of Service coming to you through the auspices of Radio Biafra London. Today is the 3rd day of September in the year of our Lord 2022. Everybody is expecting, and all of us know what program we have today. Tough Talk with our First Lady, Uchechi Kanu. Therefore, you are listening to Radio Biafra House of Service coming to you through Radio Biafra London. Once again, today is the 3rd day, the 3rd day of September 2022. Today is Saturday. Therefore, without wasting time or taking any time, I will bring in our special guest today, Wada Uchechi Kanu. Please, Madam, welcome to the program. Your brief introduction for formality's sake, please. Go on, please, Madam.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you very much. I say good evening, good morning, good afternoon, and good night to every one of us, depending on where you are. My name is Wanda Uchechi Kanu, the wife of Mazi Kanu, Ohamadike ward of Biafra land.
Wanda Wanyoma. You are welcome to the program. You know, here we say it as it is, as you know, because we don't try to be politically correct. It doesn't matter. Now, let us go to the business of the day, because you need to talk to Biafrans and take some questions from me. The first question I want to ask you is this: how are you faring with your children? In this case, do you sometimes feel dejected or frustrated owing to the fact that our leader, who is your husband, passed through this same ordeal for 18 months in 2015 and is now passing through the same situation? How are you feeling, please?
Thank you. We're coping. We've had to cope. I mean, we have to, as there is absolutely nothing we can do but to survive. It is very difficult. It is absolutely difficult. Where I have stepped in as both mother and father, especially with a young child, a young boy child, who is involved in activities that require the participation of his father. You know, for instance, you have a child you need to take to football, swimming, even school drop-offs and pick-ups. But his dad is not available to do all of that bonding activities, and he does not understand why. So sometimes, and sometimes he's upset that I'm the one picking him up from school. You know, hoping that he will be bad. So it is very difficult to answer your question. And actually, he met his father for the first time when he was 3 years old. So you can imagine the difficulty he has had to live with the fluctuations associated with his father's presence. Dejected, frustrated. Absolutely, yes. I do feel frustrated because I never envisaged that this part would be this difficult and unsettling. The first time my husband was kidnapped, in fact, in 2015, it was a great shock, as I was heavily pregnant as at that time.
Before you enter, because that's where I was going to ask you, let me just put it before you go on, please. Were you at Afari Beku in 2017 when the Nigerian military invaded your home in order to murder Martin Amdekano, our leader? And, as you're saying, it's understandable. You're a human being. We are all humans. What was your feeling concerning the whole evil episode as of that time? You can continue, please.
Okay, as of that time, 2017, that is the most difficult thing I have ever had to face for months. Why was it difficult? Because I did not know where my husband was. I was on the phone to him. I was meant to travel that week, but I think I had to get something for him. So my traveling, I had to reschedule and then book it for the next week. So we were on the phone and talking, and I started to hear this sporadic shootings. So my heart skipped and I screamed, what was that? He said, he's coming, he's coming, I should hold him. So I started to scream on the phone. I was screaming because he wasn't giving me any response. So I was screaming and asking, what is going on? What is going on? This very statement I'm making should be found on BBC interview or not, which is the reason I cannot interview with BBC, except if they accept the full responsibility to air a complete interview with them.
They censor, we know, they censor things. That's it.
So they censored quite a lot of my interviews, which I did with them on the 11th of February 2018. In fact, they asked me a question: why haven't we heard? I mean, why haven't we been able to see you or reach you or get your response from your tweet and message? So I did explain to them that it was so traumatizing. I was haunted and tormented and traumatized for months because of that event. I miscarried because of that very day.
You had a miscarriage, really, because of that event?
Yes, because of that very event. So because of that, I wasn't out there and moving because I was quite ill, and the trauma was unbearable. This was a man who was getting ready in preparation for his court appearance in no due time, as we all know, but then was attacked by the same government a few days before. So after my BBC interview, I carried on with investigation and questioning as always in the background. So this is one of the challenges, as feeling frustrated, and it is the uncertainty that comes with it as well. It can get one very frustrated. So to answer your question, I was on the phone when that attack took place. I was on the phone to him when it took place. So if I can continue with explaining how difficult it is and how frustrating it could be, that I do feel frustrated quite a lot of times. So I do ask myself sometimes, when I'm in so much agony, I would ask myself, what about the children who have lost their fathers and uncles and in the course of this struggle? This was some time ago. That was before I started to fall into or every question started to fall into the line of right answer. No sooner had I asked myself this question than I realized these situations and these feelings come with the territory. And I do tell myself that we're all paying the price for freedom, and that is sacrificial. We're all paying at the altar of pain, agony, loss, great loss of our loved ones, friends, and families. We go through each day, immersing ourselves in the fond memories of them. That is also a different torture on its own. Is a different torture on its own. It could make me feel better sometimes. It could add more torment. to my feelings sometimes. So to answer your question, yes, I do feel frustrated.
Going further, concerning or using what you said, now I want to ask you this direct question. What is it like to be the wife of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, owing to the tediousness of the journey, his engagements, and the dedications to the struggle for the restoration of Biafra? What is it like? Just the experience. What is it like to be the wife of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu?
Okay, thank you. To be the wife of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, or Hamadike one of Biafra, I would like to say that there has been two stages of what it is like to be the wife of Nnamdi Kanu. Period of this struggle and the present stage. So this very stage, 16th of September, this very September, 16th of September 2022 will be exactly 21 years of knowing Nnamdi Kanu. And minus 8 years from that 21 years, that's how long we've been married. To be wife of Nnamdi Kanu, on our very traditional marriage day, he was kidnapped. he was taken from me. So just like what you see in the movies, having problems during the day of an event.
He was kidnapped.
Yes, he was abducted.
Baptism by fire. God, please.
He was taken, and who was that? Who did that? That was Owazurike, Ralph Owazurike. So I wouldn't delve into that today. Life after that is just the usual life of couples, which I will detail at some point in the future, so not today. But for today, I will say that it is very hard and difficult, because you would, based on the natural order of couple relationship, want to be with your husband, plan and execute these plans together, birth and raise children together, and all the rest of the case, as the case may be. At first, I would be very upset when he does not pick my call. Women, you just, sometimes when you need attention and you want to have a conversation and that time is not there. So I would be upset, and I would, or when he does not pick my call or return my call. So over time, I learned to let it go. I proactively started to think, maybe he's in a meeting, because I've had to sit whilst he's in meetings. He will be in meetings, from this meeting to another meeting. Whilst he's there talking, I'll have to bring water, knowing that he's been sat there for hours. So having seen all that, I started to fall into line, proactively. So when he does not pick he's away and does not pick my call, I think, okay, it's one of those meetings and it's one of those interviews. So gradually it became his action plan to call me as soon as it's free. We had gone 10 days without him calling me, and I knew he was okay. We've gone 10 days without him calling me, and I knew he's fine where he is. He will call when he's done. He could be airborne, So it is tedious. It is absolutely tedious. You have to be strong. You have to be understanding to know that absolutely this is what it takes. Because if I have it in my head that it is tedious and it's terrible, then you start to go into a place of depression or whatever. So in order not to let that happen, this is the picture that we built together. So this is what it is, and this is how I have had to deal with it. So it is very tedious. It can be very daunting sometimes because I get to do quite a lot of things. I tend to fill in his place, and some meetings like parents' meetings, and I have to do all of that. So yes, it's quite tedious.
Okay, let's move on. Do you receive encouragements or discouragements from family members concerning your position as the wife of Francis Nnamdi Kanu? Do you receive encouragements and or discouragements from family members?
Yes, I do. I mean, in life, it's always a two-way path. Even when one is in school, in your course of study, in your career, you do get encouragements and discouragements. It could be directly or indirectly, but it's a natural thing. It's not something that it is to be thought to be a bad thing. So it's a natural thing, and it happens in every course of one's life. So in everything we do, we may not get encouraged all the time, nor discouraged, but not in a bad way all the time. It is something that happens in the course of life. Everything we do, it may be indirectly or directly sometimes, but just as every other person, one can be discouraged or encouraged by the actions of those around them. So, for example, I have it's my husband's cousin, the wife. She said, "Oh, you're studying a professional course. Why are you studying a professional course? You're going to look for jobs and you do this and So, to me, I could have thought that would discourage me. I could have thought, am I in the right path? Am I on the right track? Am I studying the right course? Am I, But that is how some discouragement can come as. So it's nothing at all to be discouraged. I mean, discouragement is sometimes is a lesson. You can get discouragement, but then you look at that very path and say, why is this way? Has something been done right or wrong? And then you look around again to see. So for example, in the workplace, it's called critical path analysis. So this sort of joins with being the wife of Nnamdi Kanu and how it feels, the journey. Because I have to be in line with not just the structure of who I am, of my particular kind of person, but also fill in the gaps found in the critical path. I will try to be not very ambiguous, but as concise and precise as much as possible to avoid anyone being bound by the complexity of ambiguity. So if, for example, I say I want to make, I think it's a maize meal. We call it asoroswaka. So that is there are processes to do that. And I want to present it in a particular way. So I want someone to see it and say, this is good. So in my head, I will try as much as I can to make sure that I carry out all the steps appropriately. So this is connecting with discouragement, encouragement, and being the wife of Nnamdi Kanu. I'm bringing everything together. So this process is called the critical path analysis. I would get the plantain wrap, the plantain leaf to wrap this maize meal. And before I do that, I would think, for someone to see this and eat it and like it, have I got the right amount of salt? Have I got the right amount of pepper? Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, I do.
So I would go back then run another test, which is stir the maize meal and taste for salt and taste for pepper to see. Now, do not forget that the taste buds, our taste buds are palates, they taste things differently. So I could taste and think to myself, oh, I'm okay with the salt and I'm okay with the pepper. But someone else might not be okay with the pepper and the salt. So that is my critical path analysis. That is me trying to make sure that that very food turns out okay. So someone else who eats it and does not like it may say, oh, there is no salt or there is no pepper. Or someone with another kind of taste bud will say, there is too much salt and there is too much pepper. But one thing I learned that from my father-in-law. God bless his dear, beloved, departed soul. And my husband took after him in terms of being diplomatic. And my little one as well, he's the same way. So my father-in-law will eat that food and he will not tell you that it is salty or it is not salty. If it is salty, he will say, there could have been, there's something that tastes like too much salt in the book. How did you put the salt? So that is how he would ask you those questions. So to me, if he asks me that, I wouldn't feel discouraged to cook next time. I would want to cook and make it better. Do you understand? So to answer your question in terms of discouragement and encouragement, it's a natural thing. Sometimes you see things that would discourage you. Sometimes you see things that will encourage you. So it's both. It's life is all balanced.
Okay. Let me ask you this question, please. Some time ago, you briefly appeared in a so-called Zoom prayer session by some infiltrators and renegades of IPOB. Can you tell us more about how and why you were present in that Zoom meeting, please?
Okay. Meeting, a prayer. It was a prayer meeting.
Yes.
Okay, so to explain that, I happen to be in communication with the women leader in the United States, Mrs. Bridget Okorafor. She's a great woman. She has a good heart, and she yearns for the release of my husband, our leader, Mazen Namdekana. She would send me a text and say, on Saturdays, every Saturday for months, she would send me a text and said, the Biafran women are in prayer. And I would say, oh, I will raise my hands in prayers. And sometimes I would say, put me in your prayers. Because after the funeral of my mom, I had fallen so much ill that I haven't been quite myself. So at some point, I said to her that, she said to me, is actually okay for you to join in this prayer? And I said, yes, absolutely, you're right. I should join in this prayer because it will be a great thing for me to encourage the people who take the time out of the little time they have to pray for the release of our leader, for his safety and his well-being. So if not for anything else, I should at least encourage them and say, Jisimi, keep up the good work. So back to your question again, these are the sort of things you would do, someone could perceive as discouragement. So if I don't do that, I feel like discouraged to say, where is the wife? She doesn't join us. To me, it may not be discouragement because if I hadn't been told, I will not be aware of what they're doing. But because she tells me, because she tells me all the time that we are praying, we've gone into prayer now, I felt it was my obligation to encourage them. And how would I encourage them? Directly by praying with them. Because I believe that there is power in prayer with people joining hands together in agreement. It is powerful. So I said to her one of these days that I would join. And then next time again, I said, today is rough for me and not able to do that. Maybe just finishing from the little one's football and even in illness, because I have to do all of this being ill as well. So I said to her, I can't remember the month right now, but I know it was on the 5th. So I said to her the 5th of that month that I will join, and she was elated. She was like, okay, that's great. She was happy about that. Which also I was very happy to pray with my sisters and mothers. So on that day, in fact, the night before that day, I became more ill. The ailment I have, I take medication, and I probably was taking the wrong medication, and it wasn't helping me, it was making it worse. So in the morning, I was just thinking to myself, how would I do today? Because I was shivering. When I walk, my feet will be hurting. And in fact, I was in bed. I was crying when my brother-in-law called me. That is Kinsley. Kinsley called me. And he said, what is the problem? I said, this thing is not feeling, I'm not feeling any better with this thing. And he said, what are you taking? And we talked, and because he was really worried. So he called one of our uncles, their uncles, and brought him on the phone, and we spoke, and he asked me a few questions, and we talked about a particular thing that I needed to take, and I quickly ordered immediate delivery for that, in fact, to collect in store. So I had to go collect that. I took it, and I felt better a little bit, but I was still feeling very dizzy. I can't walk without holding on to things. And then I thought to myself, can I actually attend this prayer? But because I have said I will be there, I had to be there. So I joined on. I was called in, I think it was via Zoom. I had a blanket over my head because I was very, very ill. Because when I'm ill, is all tears that falls off my eyes. So I got on, I was brought in, and we prayed, and I encouraged them with the word of God, and affirmed the power in prayer, and we prayed. And that was the first time I actually put together the death of my mother and the incarceration of my husband and my illness at the same time. I've always had to think one at a time. But in that moment, that was the first time I saw the 3 mighty high mountains in front of me. And I could barely actually even talk. I wanted to sing a lot of songs, and I was filled with so much emotions and the pain as well that I was going through physically right there. Not just emotional pain. I was physically very, very ill. So I joined them in prayers, and I realized that being amongst them, I think by being amongst them, I felt, or in the midst of them, I felt better. Not of the physical pain, but the emotional burden kind of eased a little bit because I was amongst people. So also being the wife of a Nnamdi Kanu, you have to, be careful regarding your parts and where you are and things. So, but I felt great because we were in the presence of God. We were seeking His face. So I made a very few speech, and I said I would be there. I would always join them once in a while. If it's once a month or once in 2 months, I would join and then that I like the fact that they come together to pray. That shows commitment. And the fact that they understand that Nnamdi Kanu is suffering where he is and he needs the intervention of God is also great. And for us all to pour out our hearts, asking God that for Nnamdi Kanu to be where he is today, that alone is righteousness onto his path. Nnamdi Kanu, for being where he is a righteous man. And because of that, God will hear our prayers. And after saying that, I went on mute, and in fact, I went on mute instead of going away, and had to tend to the little one. So at some point, I could still hear the voice and noise. I thought, oh my God, this thing is still on. So I logged off and I went off. So that was what happened. Nothing happened. I mean, no problems or anything whatsoever. And I think the next day, I got a text from my sister's husband, my little sister's husband. He said, "Madam, can I call you? He always asks me first if it's okay to speak to me, because knowing that I was very, very ill." So I said, "Yes, okay, you can call me." And he rang me and he said, I've just been fighting and explaining to some people about something." I said, what happened? He said, "You were on a platform that you shouldn't be." I thought, oh my God, what platform is that? And he said, "The platform you were on yesterday to pray." I thought, I don't think I went there to do anything wrong. And what is wrong with the platform? So that was my question, and I will keep the rest to myself. So that was what happened, to answer your question.
Okay, we move on. What do you wholesomely, what do you say about the extraordinary rendition of our leader, Nnamdi Kanu, notwithstanding he is holding a British passport? He was renditioned to a country, a dead country, that Nigeria is not holding Nigeria passports. So it is really bizarre in the world stage. What do you say about it? This episode, this bizarre episode. What do you say about it?
It is indeed bizarre. It is mind-boggling as to how countries who are signatory to the same UN Charter that stands against human rights, these two countries, they are signatory to that very charter, the Human Rights Charter of the United Nations. But because this is currently being put through the legal process, there isn't anything that I think that is not out there, and everybody knows that Nigeria is making a fool of herself, and UK is also making a mess of herself, because these two, they are signatories to the UN Charter that stands against human rights violation. And keeping someone in solitary violation, in solitary confinement from such time to this very moment is a clear sign that these two are probably unaware of their involvement. But like I said, because this is currently being put through the legal process, there is not much I should say now. But underground works are being done, and the rat feathers are being ruffled. Like the UN working group, having declared the importance of the case being resolved. Immediate release of Nnamdi Kanu, because this is a clear violation of his human rights, as declared by the UN Charter, to which Britain, like I mentioned earlier, as well as Nigeria, are signatories. So I think this brings me to the encouragement part of this question as well, which I addressed earlier. I don't know how much advantage we are taking of this working group declaration by UN, as attained by Bruce Wayne, who was engaged by the women-led leader, IPOB Women Leader USA, led by, that's Mrs. Bridget Okafor, and a few good-hearted Biafrans. Excuse me. This needs to be made known far and wide via social media handle in order to gain traction, in order to gain the right and the proper traction. But prior to the UN working group, I'm speaking about this because this is already in the open. I actually met with Bruce Wayne and we discussed, he was here in the UK. We discussed in details, steps to be taken, and he got the nod of approval. And here is the result. All the strategies are in pipeline and will be made known in the future when they're already out. Having said this, I have been also interviewed by the Times UK, which was published, I think, 11th of July, 2021. In fact, I was interviewed alongside Kingsley. And that's Excelency Kanu, my brother-in-law. And I'm sure this is also in the public domain. I think so the encouragement I spoke of should come from the spreading of any move we make in the public, of any information we have that needs to go far and wide. So I believe that very interview we both had on the 11th of July 2021 is also in the public domain and was shared far and wide. The UK government, the United Kingdom government, they will at some point have to face the fact that it is their responsibility to see to their citizen, which is Nnamdi Kanu, just as they intervened in and prevented the extraordinary rendition of late Alhaji Umaru Dikko in 1984. He was not even a British citizen. I'm not sure why he was saved, or why that very situation was stopped from happening. So if he was not a British citizen and his extraordinary rendition was stopped, then the British government will at some point have to face the fact. They have to face their responsibility towards their citizen, and that is Nnamdi Kanu. There is nothing they can do about it. They will have to. Thank you.
Have you ever visited our leader this time around in the DSS custody? If yes, how do you see his physical and mental fitness? I'm talking about this time around.
This time around, yes. Yes, I have seen him. I've been to see him. Yes, I have been to see him. And in fact, Nnamdi Kanu is mentally and physically fit. More mentally fit than those roaming free, but who are not free indeed. And I'm sure people would know that, or people already know, our people already know that he is, why do we call him Muhammad? He is the strength of all. He is our strength. So he is mentally the most strongest that I've ever known. Yes. We discussed, we spoke for quite a while. We talked about his health, which is not something that people are not aware of. He's healthy, but he needs a physician who would deal with his health issues. Everybody knows that he has heart issues, and that is very, very, very imminent. It must happen. Because you can't put someone in such a confinement and not provide that person with the medical care that he requires. They just continually making a fool of their country and who they are. So we discussed the children, but most importantly, we discussed the struggle and all the things which I could not think about, I couldn't even remember. But he remembered them all. He was asking me these and that, and I was like, wow. I was trying to remember something that I've really forgotten about. So we had our discussions, and he is a sound and clear as a crystal ball. That's who he is. So when he kept asking those questions, I thought, oh my God, I started to praise and hail him, and I said, oh Habadike, the man that speaks for the helpless, the man that saw the light and said, no, I want my people to experience this light. I praised and hailed him, and I threw accolades, and he was smiling, and I said, Odowu, come on also. And he stood, there he is, in his usual glory. He stood tall, like the demigod that he is amongst men. He stood. And he was laughing. He said, I continue to praise and hail him. I continue to sing praises of him. And he said, okay, you know you are my kiss of death. I don't know. Some people play chess. I'm not a very good player myself. But my husband is very good at chess. And the little one plays chess as well. So when I came back, because I didn't have internet whilst I was there, I had to ask the little one, whoa, can you tell me what is the kiss of death? I mean, what does that mean? And he told me the moods of what it means to be kiss of death. I'm sure I don't know if you play chess.
Yes, I do. I play chess very well.
Oh, right. So that was what he said. He said, you know, you're my kiss of death. And I laughed. Okay, so he's very sound mentally. He has all his things. I mean, I'm sure that's what people know him to be. The most intelligent of them all. The most mentally articulated man. So I don't think there's anything I'm saying here that is new. So he's very sound and clear as a crystal ball in terms of mental and physical strength.
Okay. Let me ask you this last question before we take some few seconds or minutes break. Have you ever been contacted directly or indirectly by any Nigerian agent?
Contacted?
Yes.
No. Absolutely not. No.
Okay, thank you very much. You are listening to Talk on Radio Biafra House Service, coming to you through Radio Biafra London. You are hearing the voice of our first lady, Uchechi Kanu. Today is the 3rd day of September 2022. We shall go into few minutes break, so that when we come back, we shall continue in the second part. Please don't go away. You are
Propaganda machine, racist media, set up by great Britain to oppress the oppressed people of Biafra. BBC, your media war propaganda of 1967 and led to genocide of over 3.5 million men, women, and children. Did not stop us. You know why? Because we are the sons and daughters of the great lion from the tribe of Biafra. Our minds are made up. Your shenanigans and fake media will not stop us either. We must and shall restore Biafra. Biafra worldwide phone call campaign alert continue. Now pay close attention. People like when you call BBC and you use the following prompt when you call. Hello, my name is. Tell me your name. I call you to ask about BBC policy of propaganda against the victims of genocide. Since you are obsessed with telling lies about Biafra, here are 5 more questions to consider. Now, this is a great question to ask BBC. We are witnesses to BBC racist coverage of terror, implying that Africans lies matter. Yet the same BBC rallies the whole world the slightest terrorist incident in the United Kingdom. Here is the second question. But when to Nigeria, BBC not only hides terrorists, but they slander the victims and survivors of terrorism and genocide. The third one, when the creatures of lies and hypocrisy, the BBC Fake News Network made a documentary about the slaughter of Nigerian Fulani terrorists and the government of Nigeria so that London may plunder Biafran resources. The first question is the oil gas of Biafra. The reason that BBC is obsessed and terrified by the agitation for free. You are listening to
Welcome back. This is Radio Biafra House of Service coming to you through Radio London. We are on Tough Talk with our first lady, Uchechi Kanu. That is who you are hearing her voice all over the world. Today is the 3rd day of September 2022. Therefore, we must continue to the second part of the questions, please. Welcome back to the second part. As I said before about your answer the question. Now, what do you have to say about IPOB structure? What do you have to say about IPOB structure? And some people try to what this established structure. What do you have to say? Please, go.
IPOB structure. IPOB. In fact, first of all, the mantra of IPOB is one family. The IPOB structure that I know has been set up as the backbone upon which this movement relies. That is the structure. And in every organization, if you do not have a structure, you will collapse. Just as a human being, what is our structure? It is the spinal cord that you have. The spinal cord, the spinal line, the spine. That's the structure. If that is tampered with, if you have a problem with that, you will collapse as a human. You will not walk. So the structure has been set up there in IPOB. IPOB has her own structure, which is her backbone on which she relies. There is a hierarchical organogram. I mean, this has been since 2014, 2015. In terms of the organogram, that's what I'm talking about. The organogram has been since 2014. And it's hierarchical rather. It is put into place to enable the effective functioning of IPOB. And that structure stems from the head of Directorate of State through to the last official within every IPOB chapter. The Director of State spearheads. Some time ago, during 2015, I'm sure those who were in IPOB would hear a lot of, it's spearheaded by the DOS, it's spearheaded by the DOS, is not the DOS. I don't know if nobody sings that mantra anymore. But that is the structure that I know. That Nnamdi Kanu has set in place. The Directorate of State spearheads the movement. And I'm sure we are all aware that Nnamdi Kanu is also a member of the DOS. Hence, any operation outside of this very structure, honestly, should be disregarded. And worthy of note that Radio Biafra, which is why I am here today. I mean, I could go on BBC and the rest of them, but Nnamdi Kanu understands the power of media. He knows that if you have media, you have the power. The rest of the media censored or sponsored by the government, they will always censor your news. They will always twist what you say to be something else. And then Nnamdi Kanu will say to you, Radio Biafra is where you come and you get the average news or information. So let's not forget that. That Radio Biafra is the mouthpiece of the movement. There could be other places in the world, several movements, everybody trying to make sure that we get Biafra. But IPOB, under the leadership of Nnamdi Kanu, Radio Biafra is the mouthpiece of the movement. And as Mazen Nnamdi Kanu will always say, Radio Biafra is where we worship. It is where we worship. For those trying to thwart the established structure, the very purpose, the very spinal cord upon which IPOB lies on. they need to be aware that they are functioning outside of IPOB, being led by Nnamdi Kanu. And when you function outside of a defined structure, you are deliberately sabotaging the objective of that very movement. Let me give you a biological example.
That's what the goddamn guy, this goddamn
Some people think I actually didn't go to school.
You can't shut the people of Biafra's mouth. You cannot.
I'm giving a biological example.
We will continue to do what it takes, what we believe in our own side, that it will help the struggle, and also our leader Nnamdi Kanu.
Which is referred to as mitosis.
These goddamn political solution guys they are horrible. When you were stopping sit at home, you didn't consider all this thing that you are talking about. And you didn't tell Nnamdi Kanu
what is that bigger function? That bigger function is known as the tissues. Now, these tissues will come together to create organs. And the organs create a functional system. Now, if you relate this to the system of IPOB, you will understand the hierarchical structure that I'm talking about. Therefore, when you function outside of a functional system, you are an exoparasite. I mean, a lot of us do biology in secondary school. You function as an exoparasite, and your objective is specifically to penetrate the functional system to cause harm or mishap. That becomes your job. That becomes your prerogative. That becomes your objective. That becomes your vision as an exoparasite to cause mishap, because you're functioning outside of the master structure or system. Functional system. However, if an exoparasite decides to establish a symbiotic relationship, I want our people, for everyone who is under the sound of my voice, to understand this very example that I'm given. If you fail to understand, ask your brother, ask your sister, ask your lawyer, ask your doctor who you think might understand better. If an exoparasite decides to then establish a symbiotic relationship with an already established system. If you remember, I said I'll try to not be ambiguous, for us not to be bound by the complexity of ambiguity. So I'm trying to speak in a simple term and in a simple tone, so everyone will understand me. Now, if an exoparasite decides to establish a symbiotic relationship with an already established system, then there must be a form of agreement, underline the word agreement, between the system and the exoparasite. Outside of any agreement, outside of this very agreement, the exoparasite must be regarded as an intruder whose intention is to cause harm.
I don't think these people are referring to science.
And cause chaos. So explain this further. Think about the grazing cattle, cattle. The grazing cattle and an egret. Egret is E-G-R-E-T. Whilst the cattle grazes, the egret feeds on the fleas. You know the fleas that you find on the back, on the skin of the cattle. The egret feeds on the fleas on the cattle. So they both are benefiting from their relationship. So once the cattle is raising and the fleas are eating off the skin and disturbing the cattle, the egret is, as light as it is feeding on the fleas. And the cattle has no problem whatsoever because the egret is helping it. But imagine a dog wanting to jump on the back of a grazing cattle. What will happen?
Of course, the cattle will, there will be a fight.
Absolutely. So that is when you try to thwart a structure, a system, that is what happens, because the egret comes based on agreement and feeds on the fleas, and they both will have it. So I think that is my answer to for those trying to thwart the structure set by Kanu and his stewards members. And that is where IPOB is headed from. Thank you. Sorry, excuse me. Okay.
Let me repeat the question for the interest of the public. I think I off my telephone. Do you at any time feel bullied or threatened by any individual, organization, or government agency? Go.
Yes, I have been bullied and threatened. I have been bullied and threatened. By an individual? No, not at all. For organization and government agents. In fact, the government, there's experts, government agents. Yes. Absolutely yes. But that at some point in the future, I will explain better. Of course, we all know. I'm not here
to do it better because everybody listening to you like to know the governments that are sponsoring this or please. Everybody we don't joke with our first family. That is it. Please go.
Like I said, yes. For individual, I don't I'm aware of any individual bully. I'm not bullied anyway, and can't bully me, unfortunately. But threatened by organization or government, of course, Nigerian government, yes, I am threatened by their steps that they have taken. And I'm also threatened by the steps of other governments, such as United States. Like I said, I can just leave it here for now, because I will just leave that for now. But yes, I am being threatened by at least this two governments that I mentioned. And in fact, if I could buttress on that, I have been threatened. I've been threatened by. There would be a motivation because it wasn't just one person. So these people would be in a dark van. We have experienced that before. Myself and my husband, we were being watched, and we made the necessary moves that we had to. Also, Since his incarceration, yes, I have noticed such movements once again, and I took the same necessary step. So yes, to your question.
Okay. Now, what is your general counsel or advice to the family members of this global movement, the indigenous people of Biafra worldwide? What is your general counsel or advice to everyone of us?
Thank you for that question. I'm not here today to tell us all the related history that we already know. Chebe, all the books that we already know, all the books we have all read before. I try to implement what I read in a book, which is why I have a problem with some success. And when I say sex, I mean people who gather and create mantras. It becomes something to say without thinking about it. So when I read a book, I try to relate it to life, whatever I read. And that makes me an essence plastic. I am an essence plastic, an eclecticist. Having said that, we know the story of every history. But how do we apply it to our current situations? How do we? People read Bible, people read Quran, people read a lot of things, people get history from the past, and they put it together. That is what I do. And I learn and then I separate points that I would like to use. We also know Mandela, we try to always use Mandela to at least make reference when we talk about our leader, Nnamdi Kanu. And a few times as well, I've been asked questions about Mandela, and people just throw comments and few parts of it. Some people, I don't know if how where they are regarding the real life of me, the things she did on the ground. Whilst no one would see her, screaming on social media and talking about she was doing few things, even though she was stopped by government, which we have just answered the question here. Yeah. My general counsel would be that as a people, now this council goes to people who fall under the leadership of Nnamdi Kanu, those who believe in his gospel, those who believe that he is the hope of the hopeless, and that is light in our darkest heart. And he is the voice that speaks for those who cannot speak or fight for themselves. This council is for those people. And from what he said to me as well, we must remain focused and avoid any distractions whatsoever. As you have observed, there has been a lot of noise over the past year, which has been aimed at distorting the vision of the struggle. Always have a forefront of your mind about those we have lost. Have it at the forefront of your mind. Those who we have lost in the struggle, who died with hope that our people will be liberated from the claws of our oppressors. In the coming months or in months to come, as has been in the last year, you will continue to be exposed to a lot of noise. You will continue to be exposed to a lot of noise. As Martin Kanu will always say, they will always try. If I feel the is not doing anything good or right, nobody wants to start what we are doing. All the things he has predicted, everything when they say it happens. He made mention of in the coming months, some of you will sell out, some people will sell out, and you will see the evidence. They will start running mad, just by their own hands, without you chasing them. They will start running. That is the word of my husband. Nick said it. That is his prophecy, one of his prophecies. But we should always remember that those who gave their lives gave it in the hope that our people will be liberated. So their blood must not go in vain. Be spent in vain. But learn to listen. I don't know, but I know that some of us have learned over the course of time. We've learned to listen. I've spoken to some people and they don't listen. And when you don't listen to me, I'll stop talking to you. I wouldn't bother. I don't have time to waste. Keep saying the same thing over and over again. You kind of said, listen to the words. I will add value, and keep you on track, and in line with the vision of IP led by him. That is led by Martin Kanu. I can understand about people's nature of something authority. You know, which has always ended up causing us damage as a people. I was on outreach for the objective of people in the United States to come together. And I gave an analysis. I said something, and I'll say that thing again today, because I haven't seen that video. It seems the busy thing. Why I want everyone to pay attention to this. Pay absolute attention. It seems busy. Why a lot of people join the group or meetings or join online? This is not a meeting. This is a freedom-fighting organization. But it seems the reason why a lot of people join groups is not primarily to participate in helping the group to achieve its purpose or objective, but wanting to win and create a clique systematically with the intention of introducing their own selfish vision, eventually causing mayhem within the main group as they seek to create their own visionless group, which always ends up nowhere, dead on arrival. Dead on arrival. You split, you start your own, you split even with yourself and keep splitting. Opposite of mitosis. The opposite of the biological example I gave. Opposite of mitosis. They end up aligning people from the main vision of the original group and making them visionless. Now these people become more confused, more disjointed, and more directionless. Because they take the original plan and have no clarity of purpose whatsoever. This has been the mantra, this has been the motto, this has been the steps and the structure of our people. Multiply this stupendous ignoramus by, let's say, 10,000, 50,000, that is equal to where we are today. Worse than we were ever. Worse than we were ever. I leave you to ponder on that. I leave you to go back and perhaps listen to what I said. And see if you make any sense of it. And analyze it and try to pinpoint if that has been the case. Let's remain focused. That is the word I have for you from my husband. Our leader, your leader, Mazi Kanu. The leaders of this very movement. I am not talking to another person who runs a movement. I am not talking to another person who runs another name of Biafra organization. I am talking to the people who fall under the power of Kanu. To remain focused and steadfast. Remember the teachings he has taught you all these years. He kept saying it. I don't you. You don't listen. Everything he has said and taught for the past how many years, it seems like he never said a word. People are distorted and confused, behaving like they don't know a thing. He said, you need to be strong. Be without fear. That is his word. In the face of your enemies. This is his favorite quote. Be brave and upright. That God may love thee. And that evil may not befall thee. Speak the truth. If you always live by fighting and underground to make sure that your brother falls into it. Leave it behind. Speak the truth always. Even if it leads to your death. Even if it makes you appear foolish. Even if it makes you appear weak. Speak that truth. Remember to focus on our goal. The rest is just noise. Noise. Absolute noise. Ad feminine. You can write this down, or you can replay it. These are Latin words. If you delve into psychology, this will make more meaning. Ad feminine. Ad hominem. Ad hominem fallacy. Ad hominem abusive. Ad hominem circumstantial. These are all noise. They are noise. They make you lose focus. Ignore this noise. And always bear in mind that there is something called power, which is the ability to alter, to direct, or influence another's behavior or course of event. That is what we have. That is what every IPO member who is under the leadership of the Kanu has. Which are feminine, all the people causing him trying to force the structure, which he has suffered for, which he has bled for, are trying to thwart. They have none. Remember this is IPOB, and we always win. Always in the end. We win. Thank you.
Then woman, thank you very much for being here. But before you go, I would like you to also make your closing remarks using our dialect, our language. You are an Igbo woman. So please, talk to us closingly using Igbo language. There will go.
Ndewo maazị. As Hamadike would say, people asụsụ eluigwe. Asụsụ eluigwe. I would have IPOB, one family, IPOB, if I would get a response, but I would say that for us all. Achọrọ m ikele ndị be anyị. Achọrọ m ikele Biafra niile. Ma ndị gbara Ijiji Nnamdi Kanu ma ndị na-ekwe ka anyị. Ana m ekele mmadụ niile nke na-alụ n'abalị a. Ọtụtụ mgbe apụtabeghị m bịa kwuo okwu kama ihe gbasara ọ na-eche m uche. Anọkwara m n'anya dịka tinye ụlọ n'anya. Eji aka ekele ndị niile na-agba mbọ ịhụ na onye isi anyị pụtara. Na-ekelekwa ndị na-ebe ha nọ ekpere ma ngamije n'ihi na anyị bụ ọmụrụdo nwanne agbara ọsọ. O wejiri mara anyị. So I think IPOB against one family. Kedu ihe ọ pụtara? Ọ bụ ịdị n'otu. Ka m were aka kelee mmadụ niile n'ịbịa kpata anyị dị n'otu. N'ihi na anyị ga-adịrịrị n'otu. Ma anyị adịghị n'otu. Oge anyị na-emefu oge. Ka anyị wepụ iwe. Ka anyị nwekwa ndidi, nwekwa nkasi obi. N'ihi na ndị anyị hụrụ n'anya nwụchara anyị. Eze eluigwe ga-anapụrụ obi ha n'udo. Kama anyị ndị dị ndụ, ka anyị wepụ iwe, wepụ ọnụma, wepụ ekworo, bụrụ ndị chere anyị. Ahamadike kwuru okwu nye iwu ka anyị lekọta onwe anyị. Onye ọbụla lekọta nwanne ya. Ghara ị na-egbu nwanne gị. Ghara ị na-egbu nwanne gị. Ka anyị ghara ị na-egbuchi onwe anyị. Ka anyị nọrọ na nche. Ka anyị nọrọ na nche chebe onwe anyị. Ka anyị nọrọ na nchebe nke onwe anyị n'ihi na ilekọta anyị, ime ka anyị nọrọ n'otu, ime ka ọ dịrị anyị na mma bụ ihe ya nwere ebe ọ na-ete. Ihe o ji nọrọ ebe ọ na-ata na ahụhụ ọ na-ata bụ ka anyị nọrọ na nchebe. Nchebe na-egbogbo ọnwụ ka anyị ghara ịnọ na mmerụ ahụ. Onye bịara ogige nwanne ya emerụ nwanne ya ahụ. Ebe ya dịbatara otu n'ebe ahụ ka anyị niile nọrọ ịdị n'otu n'ịhụnanya. Ndị niile aka n'ụlọ na-akwado ihe ya hiwara na mbụ Directors of states. Media warriors. I'm not going gallant. I'm shaking. Media warriors Achọrọ m ikele ha ka iji ike Tweet Tuesday anyị na-eme o chetara m ya ọ chọrọ m ya ka iji ike bunye ọkụ na Tweet Tuesday ozi ọbụla anyị nwụ ka anyị si na Tweet Tuesday mee ka ndị anyị nwụrụ ọkụ sikwarị na Maazị Chinedozie m ọkwa mgbe anyị kwuru okwu otu ihe si na-aga ọkụ onye mbụ jụrụ m ajụjụ ya unu jisi ike ka ihe hapụrụ n'aka imebi ọkụkwa na-ebu n'ụlọ ka na amaara m amụtala ihe n'aka ya unu amụtala gịnị nọ na-akụziri unu ọkụkwa ya bụ ihe na mmadụ ma akụziri ya na-eme ụta ọ bụ amamihe So ekelela ndị nwe m ndị Chineke chọrọ mma ndị dịka echi n'ihi na echi a na-akwụ agwụ ahụ niile bụrụ ọnụ agaghị ezigide unu were ezogide m n'ọnọdụ Nnamdi Kanu na mụwa na-asị ka Chineke gọzie unu chebe unu dozie unu kwadokwa ụzọ unu niile n'ihi na oge na-adịghị anya anyị ga-aṅụrịkwa mgbe gara aga anyị ga-aṅụrị ya oge na-adịghị anya ka Chineke gọzie unu niile ekele m na-abara unu n'ọnọdụ Maazị Nnamdi Kanu ọ bịara anyị na-akpọ ọha ekele na-abara unu n'ọnọdụ Maazị Nnamdi Kanu onye ndu nke IPOB worldwide. Ndewo.
Nwada Uchechi Kanu, our first lady. Thank you for being here with us. I believe and hope that also in the future that you will spare your time also to talk with us, talk to us through this.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Biafra, this is Radio Biafra House is coming to you through Radio London. We have come to the end of this program known as Tough Talk, and you've had it all.